We went to marriage counseling for about 5 months, and the marriage counselor pulled me aside and said, "You're doing everything right, but you need to get a divorce and get somebody you deserve who's going to bring the same amount of effort to the relationship that you're putting in." I was on top of a mountain that I needed to maybe walk down a little bit and see things from a different perspective. As soon as I worked on myself, my wife started to change. We're back together. I want to say it's like a second honeymoon type feeling to it. I'm practicing spice every day. She felt secured because I was secure in myself and my new growth.
Just got to be coachable.
Men, the admission for today's video is only one thing. Press that like button, but more importantly for you, press the subscribe button. Make sure after you hit the subscribe button that you do change those settings to all. I don't want you to miss one single video that could actually help you save your marriage.
Doug wanted to come on and share his testimonial about how the Divorce Stoppers program turned everything around in his marriage. He was on the brink of divorce, marriage counseling. The marriage counseling basically confirmed that his wife needed to change and that she wasn't willing to change, and even went so far as to recommend divorce. It's a little bit extreme, but it's not entirely unique. That's something that I hear, quite a bit in the years that I've been doing this. Doug, you guys were married for 16 years. Fast forward 16 years into your marriage. Can you talk a little bit about what did you guys go through in the way of marriage counseling and why that didn't work before you ultimately end up coming to Divorce Stoppers? Because I think marriage counseling actually led you guys to getting separated. Is that correct?
It was. We went to marriage counseling for about 5 months, and for whatever reason, the marriage counselor pulled me aside and said, "You're doing everything right. You're actually bringing 100% to the table. She's not giving enough," which, basically made sense in my mind because I was talking to her about, hey, these are my feelings. This is where I'm feeling left out or not fulfilled. And I wasn't getting any feedback. So I thought everything was going great. So going to marriage counseling just said, yeah, everything's right. And the counselor said, "You can't do it. You deserve better. So you need to get a divorce and get somebody you deserve who's going to bring the same amount of effort to the relationship that you're putting in."
Let me ask you a question. Are you the one that hired that counselor originally, or was that your wife? Or
That was the wife.
She hired the counselor. So your wife, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I didn't know that part. So your wife actually hired this counselor and said, "I am willing to work on my marriage. My husband is saying that I need to change some things, so I'm willing to be counseled in our marriage." She was basically the client that paid money to this counselor and said, "Help us with our marriage." And fast forward 5 months into that counseling session, and I guess you guys were both the client of the counselor, but the counselor was hired by your wife, right?
Yeah. And
this is crazy to me. So your wife hires the counselor to help her restore her marriage. And the counselor, 5 months after taking your money and your time, pulls you to the side, even though you're not even the one that hired her, and tells you that your wife is so messed up that this can't be fixed. You need to get out. I mean, maybe they didn't say that, but this is like crazy. This is the first time I've heard this way. The story entirely is not unique, but one person hiring and then the counselor taking, I've heard it the other way. The person that hired the counselor takes them aside, says, "Get out," but not where it's almost like they kind of went behind your wife's back because after taking your money and basically stealing the investment of your time for 5 months, and you were already biased against your wife, thinking that she's the one that needed to change. And here you are. So in the program, as you know, we talk a lot about confirmation bias, where it's not about all the things that you do right. Typically, when a wife leaves a husband or a long-term partner, they have a bias in their head where they're biased against the relationship, they're biased against the partner, and it's almost always the woman, the wife that left, or the long-term relationship girlfriend. And you do all these different things right. You try all these other programs, they give you some wins, and that's amazing, and you see some success, but you do one thing wrong. Not only do you go back to where you started, you go further back because it further confirms for her bias against you. But in this case, the marriage counselor actually confirmed your bias against your wife. And after you went through the Divorce Stoppers program, you actually discovered that the counselor was wrong, that it wasn't, yeah, sure, your wife needed to change, but the way that it was being approached in the counseling sessions were never going to bring about that change. Talk a little bit about that. So 5 months of counseling, the counselor told you you're the good guy, she's the enemy, and then you guys ended up separated after that, right? So talk about that.
A lot of you thinking, well, I've got to become the best version of myself if I want my marriage restored. I've got to go change. I've got to go do everything differently. All the stuff that she told me of the reasons she wants out of the marriage, I've got to go change those things. If you've already done all of that, but it hasn't worked, put that in the comments if that's you. Have you become the man that she said she's always wanted, but it's not enough? Maybe you were an alcoholic. Maybe you were a controlling narcissist. Maybe you were a psychopath. Maybe you were verbally abusive. Maybe you weren't intimate with her. Maybe you didn't value her opinion. But now all of a sudden, you do all of those things, but it still hasn't worked. Here's the question. Put in the comments if you have realized that that's not enough. You changing is a beautiful thing, and that's probably a requirement.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be enough to save the marriage if she has confirmation bias.
Yeah.
You've got to lead her to change.
So 5 months of counseling, the counselor told you you're the good guy, she's the enemy, and then you guys ended up separated after that, right? So talk about that.
Yeah. We're separated for a year, and nothing was working. The light was going out. Even though the marriage counselor confirmed my bias, I didn't want to give up, even though we were separated for such a long time, about a year. And she brought up the divorce, the big D word, the divorce. She wanted us actually get the same lawyer to cut down on costs. But I started to feel hopeless. The light was just going away in the relationship, which caused me to panic a little bit because I didn't want to do that. I invested 16 years of this. I wanted to make it work, even though everyone was saying, hey, I'm the good guy in this one. I wasn't ready to fully believe that. I was still willing to work on it.
Okay, that makes sense. And so when I did your enrollment call, I remember the conversation kind of spinning around. First, you were kind of thinking that you might want a divorce, and that was really just a cry for help. When you were using the D word with your wife, now you're separated. She was willing to do the counseling, but didn't change. And she never voiced her opinion to you that you needed to change. Like that was something like you were caught off guard that you needed to change anything. Counselor didn't tell you need to change anything, nor did your wife. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it came out of left field. It's something, and it was weird because we talk and I would bring stuff to the table, like stuff. Hey, here's where I'm not feeling fulfilled in my relationship. And I felt like I was talking to a brick wall because I wasn't getting any feedback. And how can you change if you don't get any feedback? So I was like, well, I must be doing everything great.
Yeah, you're right. You don't know what you don't know. So I that completely makes sense. So on your enrollment call, though, I remember, it's very unusual that I take on a client that I know that they're coachable, like they're willing to do what I'm telling them to do, like they're going to try it. But it's very unusual. I mean, it's not unusual that I have a client that's coachable. What is unusual is that I have somebody that is ingrained in their DNA that it's all her fault, but they're still willing to be coachable. But that actually was you. You're like, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do. But you were like, I can't even fathom that now she wants a divorce after a year of separation. And she's the one that needed to change. Even another counselor told me that you're right. She's the one with the problems. And now here you are, you want to save your marriage, but you're like, how is it even possible? I can do this by myself if she's the one that has the problems. But you agreed to be coachable. Talk about what happened next as you go through the 7 weeks of the modules. Like what started transitioning in your mind and what did you start seeing that helped change things?
Yeah, it was right around module 3 where everything started to kind of turn around in my head a little bit where, you pointed out a lot of good things that I had to work on myself, that I was on top of a mountain that I needed to maybe walk down a little bit and see things from a different perspective. And when, even, it's 2 parts of the relationship, each got to bring 50%, but you got to bring your 50% is your 100%. And I wasn't doing that because I wasn't willing to change. I thought I was doing great. I wasn't willing to sit there and be flexible in my perspective on it. So that was just a really big eye-opening that, hey, as soon as I worked on myself, my wife started to change. I started to see stuff in my wife that I wanted to see that I brought up beforehand. I was not aware of the perspective that I was causing that problem, that my actions were the problem, even though I wasn't getting any feedback.
It seems like that you kind of started understanding that there could be some things that could change in you when we started talking about how to make yourself attractive in all of the areas. You remember the acronym? Like,
Yeah,
I'm hoping
yeah.
you're still
Yeah,
practicing that.
I do remember. I got to practice. I'm practicing spice every day. Every day, spiritual, physical, intellectual, character, and emotional. Yeah, character.
Yeah.
I always forget that one because I think I'm always a character. And emotional. The emotional one is just a big eye opening because just it's not something I would work on normals. Emotional intelligence. I completely opened a brand new world of areas where I could learn and grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like that you brought up the fact that you were on top of the mountain and that you had looked at other things that told you it was going to be grueling and you had to do all this hard work and walk up the mountain, but realizing that it's not hard work. It's the opposite of how you feel, and it's doing the opposite of things that you think you should. And it requires that you be transformed by the renewing of your mind in a way that says, forget what they're doing wrong. What can I do to provoke them to change with a good, sincere heart? And that when you increased in your spice, how you smelled to her, meaning that you started increasing in your spiritual, your physical, your intellectual, your character, and most importantly in your situation was your emotional maturity, which caused you to be more emotionally attractive to her. That's when you started taking those first 2 or 3 steps down the mountain. It's all really easy to walk down the mountain, even though we're kind of like fearful that it's not going to work because it's no effort. It's just a new way of being. We're not working at it. When I go to the gym to increase in my physical attractiveness, look at this. I'm actually getting some biceps. I'm happy. Look, I'm still real thin, but I'm up 100 pounds today.
All right.
Since I recovered from throat cancer. But it's against our DNA that something so important to us requires basically no work. It's just a new way of thinking and a new way of being. And as you started walking down the mountain easily to where she was at, down by the river at the bottom of it, she started seeing that, wow, this guy's emotionally safe and he's coming my way. And it was an easy walk, right?
Yeah.
I remember you saying on one of the one-on-one calls that you had scheduled with me, asking a question, talking, sharing with the team that you just literally, like, for 24 hours, you couldn't even believe that it was working and that it was actually causing her to change just because you changed how you think.
Yeah, I could barely sleep for that 24 hours because it was just such a great, it was exhilarating emotion. It was very refreshing too. It was just, like you said, a river. It was just kind of like after a long walk down the mountain, just jumping into the river and just how refreshing and renewing it felt. I could barely sleep. And I tell you what, the one-on-ones have been monumental because I've had a lot of questions, a lot of things that I don't get, but the fact that I can talk to you one-on-one is fantastic. It really helped me out, really helped me get out of myself because everyone was confirming what I already thought. I had to get out of myself and talking to you guys and talking to the group and getting other feedback from the Facebook group, holding me accountable and showing that that I am growing, that even though I may have slipped and tripped and fallen, I really didn't. I may thought I did, but I really didn't. And other times when I thought I was doing great, they were like, hey, you're kind of going back up the mountain, get back down.
Yeah, we don't focus on our failures. We focus on, if it is to be, it's up to me and everybody in the group. I'm going to hold you accountable, and everybody else in the group is going to hold you accountable to make sure that you keep seeing those successes, you keep seeing those wins, and you get back up. You can't be married to your old stories that there's a reason it's not working, because there probably is a reason that it's not working. But for every reason why it's not working, there's 100 reasons why it will work. And we help you see those. So I wanted to share what you're talking about on the one-on-one calls. And the reason those are so encouraging is because when you do a one-on-one call with me and you have an opportunity to get your question answered, we take that a step further. We share those calls with the group. So not only are you getting your questions answered that maybe is not coming up at the timing you needed in the program, you also are getting to benefit from the other guys that are in there asking those questions also, because you're present for their one-on-one calls with me. And I just feel like that was really helpful to you. I remember seeing some aha moments where you really had some changes. But I know that you're at work and you got to get back to work, so we'll cut it short. But in closing, I want to ask you to share one thing. This was a big thing for you. And I think this is something that's common with a lot of men. how can I fix this by myself if the issue is with her, which was your scenario? And I think this is a very common scenario. What would you tell any men that are on the fence out there that are wondering, is it possible that I can fix my marriage or my long-term relationship when we're separated? We have the distance. Now she's saying she's out. Now she's saying she wants a divorce. What would you say to any man about that maybe looking at this program that's wondering, can I fix this by myself, or does it take two to tango, so to speak?
No, I'm living proof that it does not take two to tango. This program works. And it was just amazing. It's just amazing because I thought I was bringing everything I was to the table. You switched my perspective around in ways, basically a new table to bring stuff to, or, in ways I thought I climbed up all this mountain. Come to find out I need to come down the mountain to learn a new thing. So if anyone's on the fence, I mean, this is proof that this relationship works. We're back together. We're happy. I'm still kind of, I don't want to jinx it, but I want to say it's kind of like a second honeymoon type feeling to it. So it's just, I'm very thankful, Denver, for all your help and your patience with everything. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
It works. I was just amazed, and there's new things to learn. There's new ways to, bring spice up into all my life.
Yeah, so you're seeing that you're having wins in the rest of other areas of your life, not just your marriage. And
yeah,
and ultimately, that's actually what ended up causing your spouse to change, because she saw your heart change and you became an emotionally safe person. And would you say that it changed her?
Yeah, because of the new energy I was putting into the relationship, what she saw, she felt safe to alter, to change, and kind of meet me to where I was changing. Granted, that happened to be, at the bottom of the mountain at the river, but hey, she was willing to do that. She felt safe to do it. She felt secured because I was secure in myself and my new growth. And it has. I mean, spice can really work in a lot of relationships, business, marriage, anything. So.
Yeah, I love that.
Men, if your marriage is in a place where you are facing a divorce, it does not matter if she has a boyfriend. It does not matter if she has avoidant personality or attachment personality. It does not matter if you or her have childhood traumas that you're working through. It does not matter if there is an affair partner, whether that's emotional, physical, or sexual. If confirmation bias exists, there's a way that you can take the first step today by joining my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass, where I'm going to take you on the first step in dissolving your problem, which is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is psychological, and with enough time, it becomes biological. But the good news is all of that can be reversed if you know how to do it. I'm going to help you do this in my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. My video editor is putting the QR code on the screen right now. You can scan that or visit my website to register for my free live Marriage U-Turn Masterclass at denvergriffin.com/masterclass. Visit that today to take the first step of changing your life. You have a need for speed. Put time on your side, because time is probably running out.